At times overshadowed by legendary attainable dive watches, including the SKX, Turtle, and Samurai, you cannot go long mentioning and talking about Seiko before you come up on the subject of the Alpinist. And while the Alpinist collection has grown in recent years, at its core is the Prospex SPB121, the successor to the legendary SARB 017. The former SARB and this 121 have represented a leading watch in its styling and specification as one of the best buys under $1,000. But is that still the case years later in 2024? Let's discuss that and revisit the SPB 121. So despite making many appearances on the channel, I have actually never given the SPB 121 its own individual spotlight in a video, which is to me probably a miss, as it serves as a crucial aspect of modern Seiko, as well as a reminder of its rich past. Jumping back to 1913, Seiko unveiled the Laurel, the brand's first mechanical wristwatch that also offered some of the design cues and undertones that we have come to associate with field watches that would follow in its footsteps. That said, the Alpinist name actually didn't enter the Seiko lexicon until 1959 with the release of the Seiko Laurel Alpinist, a watch that laid the foundations of the entire Alpinist collection and served as a watch for Japanese mountaineers. Despite early success, the 1960s saw Seiko leaning more heavily into the burgeoning category of dive watches, starting with the 62 Mas in 1965, and following up with legendary models like the 6309 Turtle, and later on with the SKX in 1996, allowing the field-ready Alpinist to take something of a back seat for decades to follow. In 2006, though, all of that changed with the JDM SARB 017, the watch that cemented the modern Alpinist design formula while also introducing some impressive specifications, including 200 meters of water resistance, quickly earning legions of fans, and even including myself, because this was one of those watches that helped me in the early days of my collecting journey and getting more fascinated with Seiko. And it did it with its quirky internal rotating compass bezel and a dual crown design. And it also had an answer to some of the criticisms of the time for Seiko, coming with a sapphire crystal and a 6R15 with hacking and hand winding functionality. But after over a successful decade-long run, the SARB 017 was discontinued around 2018, the SPB 121 sliding neatly into its place a couple years later, with the addition of a Cyclops over the date, updates to the dial, and an exhibition caseback allowing a view of the updated caliber, the 6R35 on the inside. Staying close to its predecessor, the SPB 121 comes in with a 39.5mm central case paired with a proportionally short lug-to-lug of 46mm, meaning this is going to be a watch that excels on a wide array of wrists. Despite some visual heft coming from the dual crowns, the internal bezel does take up some of that visual real estate from the dial, helping the 121 wear slightly smaller than its listed size suggests, feeling more like a 38.5mm watch on the wrist. In terms of the thickness, the SPB 121 comes in at 13mm, meaning this is going to be a watch that isn't necessarily slim, but the thickness is unobtrusive during its wear. Set between 20mm lugs, it comes equipped with a standard brown calf leather strap imprinted with alligator-style grain, a look that doesn't necessarily match the intended use case for the piece and is not going to blow you away with its quality either. It is improved compared to the frankly terrible strap that used to come on that SARB 017, feeling more comfortable on the wrist while being equipped with a solid updated deployant clasp that is oriented in the opposite direction from usual, with the strap tail facing the inside of your wrist. Moving into case architecture and finishing, the Alpinist leans into vertical brushing on the lug tops and polishing on the curvaceous case sides, both crowns, the bezel, and a hairline bevel casting along the entire lug. At 3, we have a screw-down unsigned crown resting just above the additional 4 o'clock crown, which does not screw down and is responsible for rotating the internal compass bezel in either direction. Along with the polished screw-down exhibition caseback, the watch is impressively rated for 200 meters of water resistance, even considering the one non-screw-down crown, and is a big contributor to helping this watch develop its esteemed reputation. A flat sapphire crystal offers an anti-reflective coating on its underside with a Cyclops magnifier on the front that matches, if not outdoes, Rolex in terms of magnification. A change from the previous SARB 017, the presence of a Cyclops in this 121 might not be for everybody, but it is far from the only quirk with this unconventional design and works well enough. Surrounding the dial, we have another one of the Alpinist key features, which is that internal bidirectional rotating bezel. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about how a compass bezel works, so let's take a brief moment to just explain how it works. Are you gonna actually use it? Probably not, but at least you know. In the Northern Hemisphere, how it will work is you will take your watch, set it to the correct time, not adjusting for daylight savings time. Then you simply hold your watch level and align the hour hand with the sun's position in the sky. The spot halfway between the hour hand and the 12 o'clock position is roughly south. In the Southern Hemisphere, rather than the hour hand, you'd align the 12 o'clock index with the sun and then use the point between the 12 and the hour hand to indicate north. Of course, you don't need a compass bezel to do this. You actually can just use any analog watch, but it does certainly aid in correctly visualizing the directions, which would be extremely helpful if you were, say, lost. As we look at the rest of the dial, more is the same than different from the SARB 017, with the aforementioned compass bezel coming in with a matte black shade with some colored accents. Just within a minute track divided by tiny graduations is printed in white and punctuated with rectangular markers at the 5-minute positions, with each sporting its own tiny circular loom plot. The hour markers are applied in gold tone with stylized Arabic numerals at the even hour positions and rounded triangular markers elsewhere. At the center, a gold cathedral handset manages time-telling duties while also making room for a healthy helping of Seiko's LumiBrite luminescent material that is exceptional as always, even if it is supplied in smaller quantity here compared to many diving models. The dial text on the piece has been reworked compared to the predecessor, dropping some text at 6 in exchange for the Prospex logo, an aspect you probably will either not mind about or will hate. Although this color serves as the Alpinist for enthusiasts, there are also other colors within this model family out there, though availability on them is not going to be as wide-reaching. Turning the Alpinist over, we have the 121 single most substantial update compared to the previous iteration, the caliber 6R35. In the last few years, we've seen Seiko investing heavily in the higher price ranges over $1,000, with the 6R35 being a movement commonly seen in those watches. With competition from Switzerland increasingly leaning into extended power reserves, even more at attainable watches from brands like Hamilton, Tissot, Mito, Certina, Seiko's older 6R15 with its 50-hour power reserve felt a bit out of date. Just a few years ago, Seiko unveiled the 6R35, which retains the 3 Hz rate we often associate with attainable Japanese mechanical watches, while increasing the power reserve to a more competitive 70 hours. Viewed through the exhibition case back, the 6R35 is finished to a very utilitarian style with little to no up decoration except for some subtle striping on the sign rotor. Given its $725 price point, which has surprisingly not changed in recent years, and the fact that this is one of the least expensive entry doors into this upgraded caliber, this watch offers a powerful value proposition in the movement department. One of the only drawbacks that you'll hear about the 6R35 caliber is Seiko's quoted accuracy range of +25 to -15 seconds per day, but many Seiko calibers are going to be quite better than their stated specs might indicate. With this example, when we tested it across 5 different positions running at +5 to +8 seconds a day. It's also important to mention that the 6R35 is a movement that is produced entirely in-house. That's including small components within the escapement and even the mainspring. In terms of general operation, 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 Hz. It does feature hacking and hand winding. Hacking stop in the second hand when you pull the crown to the farthest position. And again, a power reserve of 70 hours. So when trying to determine collectively the best watches for a price range, especially under $1,000, the SPB121 delivers on many of the attributes one would desire, while also delivering design quirks that, if it came from any other brand, we would probably be scratching our heads about. I mean, let's just say some of these things out loud. Dual crowns, gold tone markers and hands on a green dial, a cyclops, a compass bezel, and an alligator grain leather strap to go along with it. There are times in life when you are looking at a situation, a person, or a thing, and you say things out loud and it doesn't make any sense. But in actuality, it ends up working way better than you ever imagined it would. In attainable watchmaking, the SPB121 is perhaps the best example of this idea. It doesn't scream versatility on paper, but it somehow is versatile, while doing so on a majority of wrist sizes out there. It looks as if it wouldn't be lucky to have 50 meters of water resistance, but delivers a preposterous 200 meters. Its dressier markings and cathedral hands give off this elegant dress watch vibe, but its lume shines brighter than any of its utilitarian-looking competitors, while delivering an entry point to the steady 6R35 movement. The Seiko Alpinist is of this field and explorer watch genre that will never be accused of being an unvisited design style, though it somehow delivers a watch that is almost peerless. Sure, some of it might be a result of how mildly weird this watch is, but it has personality. It has an unapologetic approach, and you could argue now, as you could years ago with the SARB 017, it is one of the most complete watches that you can buy for the money, especially under $1,000. But all right, guys, that's my take on the SPB121. This is a watch that it's hard to really figure out because on the surface, it looks kind of strange. It's not a watch that you would conventionally think is going to work, but because of its backstory, its connection to enthusiasts over the years and that connection to the SARB 017, and this is speaking personally to myself as someone who's really grown to like this design, it's allowed it to be one of the best options because of the other things it brings to the table from its specifications. But what is your take on this watch? Do you like this watch? Have you owned this watch? Love to see some comments down below because I know this is such a popular model. When we did a competition and tournament about the best watches under $1,000, you know, spoiler, I mean, this was one of the top watches in that list, actually ended up in the championship round. I'll leave that video down below to see what actually happened if you are interested. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that as well. That also is a great indicator to me that you like coverage of these style of watches for the future. Also check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. But thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.